Welcome to Eastmans Journal Podcast Edition. I'm your host, Ike Eastman. Today's guest, we're going to sit down and do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about something that I don't really know much about, and that is the AR platform. Today, I'm going to get to talk to Dustin from FoldAR. You have got to check these things out. This is not only do they make awesome guns, awesome ARs, but check this out. They fold in half and go in a backpack. Now you go, why would you need to do that? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Maybe you don't want to walk around a Walmart with a pistol on your side or hidden. You can just put it in a backpack and you look like a normal guy in a backpack. So this is Dustin from FoldAR. Two things you need to look for in this. Number one, what they're doing with the police, the cops that are in your kid's school system, what they're doing to try and get those guys to have something a little bit more powerful that gives them a little bit more of an edge for stupidity. And if you think it's not going to happen in your area, you're crazy. Mental problems happen everywhere in the world. The other thing you need to look for is he talks about never being afraid to take the next step. Dustin is a cool dude because he worked his way up in the hunting industry from a bow shop to a sporting goods store to a sales guy for a national brand to a sales manager for a national brand. And now he's running basically the general manager of FoldAR. He is the guy. When you say, hey, how do I get in the hunting industry? This guy did it, and you can be that guy. He's also gives you advice. If you're that guy, he gives you advice on how to do it. So check it out. Let's talk to Dustin from FoldAR and find out about ARs. Let's talk about what they're doing with the cops that are in your kids' schools and helping them out, as well as how to grow in the hunting industry and be in part of this brand. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Cryptic, cryptic.com. Check them out. Now, Cryptic is a cool company. Not only are they God-fearing patriots and they're veteran-owned, but also they make unbelievable gear. No matter if you're hunting in the deserts of Sonora all the way up to sheep hunting in the Great North, they have a layer or layers for you. Plus, they have a bunch of cool patterns. Everything from Obscura all the way to Highlander, everything that you would need no matter where you hunt typically or that next great adventure. So check them out, cryptic.com. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Hornady. They make some of the best, most accurate, dependable ammo on the planet. No matter if you're coyote hunting or plinking steel or hunting big game out west or even going to Africa, they make a bullet or an ammo just for you. Some of the most accurate and dependable ammo on the planet. Also, check out my podcast with Steve Hornady and learn about ammo as well as their story and some funny anecdotes from Steve. First off, Dustin from AR, where are you at right now? You're in Texas?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Eastern Texas. So if you, probably an hour and 50 minutes east of DFW, probably 50 miles from the Louisiana border.
Oh, wow. You're really close to Louisiana.
Yeah, in the middle of the Pine Curtain, man.
The Pine Curtain. What is that? What's the Pine Curtain?
You've been to Texas quite a bit. And most people that don't spend a lot of time in Texas think that it's flat and desert or hill country or whatever. Well, man, in my part of the world, it's all 100-foot tall pine trees.
Oh, wow.
And so you don't see nothing for pine trees. So call it the Pine Curtain since I was a kiddo.
So is this where you grew up?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I grew up within 18 miles of where the facility is now.
Oh, wow. So you didn't go far. And just to kind of give us a little background, grew up hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff.
The whole 9 yards, man, in this part of the world. And once I got a little bit older, I was lucky enough to get out to y'all's part of the country a little bit, but mostly around here.
Okay. Grew up. See, that's whitetail country, bass fishing.
Whitetail ducks. We've got one of the top bass lakes in the U.S. about 45 minutes away, being Lake Fork. And so that's only about 45 minutes away. So grew up doing that. A lot of ducks, a lot of dove, lots of pigs. I think you kind of read about that, but we shot lots of wild hogs in this part of the world, man.
Yes, yeah, they're a menace.
Oh yeah,
and not that doesn't seem like it's changing at all. They're just continuing to be a menace.
it is.
So, Dustin, let's talk about a little bit about your background, because I think it's pretty interesting for the folks to get kind of an understanding of where you're coming from and what bring you to FoldAR.
So, when I met you gentlemen the first time, when I realized
easy now, don't be throwing those kind of words.
No, I mean, I say that to the giants from the West, us little short, fat folks here in Texas compared to you guys up there. But I really started out kind of like a lot of guys in the hunting industry, started working at a sporting goods shop, and then kind of just stepped my way up from there to get to, they say, you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Well, that was kind of my concept of, I got to do something in this sector of work to be able to enjoy my life. And so I've spent the last 20 something years stacking my way up here from being a bow shop, just tech guy that you came in and said, cut my arrows. And then, from there went to Swagger and Big and J. Did that for several years, and then had to leave for personal reasons, and then got to where I'm at now. Basically not owning this business, but operating this business from every aspect of it, from the machining side of it downstairs to the marketing to the sales to the LE side of everything. So I mean, it's been a bit of a climb, but I made it here.
So that's what I think it's really interesting, Dustin, is there's a lot of guys that, I meet a lot of young guys, especially at these shows and stuff. And they always ask me, I just, one day my dream is to be in the hunting industry, which is awesome. That's a great dream. You're one of those guys that didn't, you didn't come from another industry and got into this. You weren't the sales manager at Hurley or
No.
Ford Trucks or whatever. You said, you know what? I'm going to cut arrows and I'm going to figure out how to get to the next step and then the next step and then all the way up to sales manager or, sales for Big and J, which for my audience may not know who that is, but they're the largest deer supplement feed company around. They're actually a Nebraska company. Is that correct?
Yep, they are in Nebraska. Oh yeah.
Yep. And they took a cattle feed operation and said, I think we can do this with deer, and obviously have done worlds of success.
Oh yeah, they're the 1,000-pound gorilla in that market for sure.
Yep.
So
yep. And then obviously they spun off and did Swagger bipods, which is what I shoot off of every fall. A great product. It's very unique. There's a learning curve to it, like everything else on the planet. But those are great, and that's where we met. And you scratched your way up through that. And if you could give one of those young bucks some advice, what would you tell them? How would you encourage them?
You got to stick with it. Main thing is, and you can't ever be afraid. That's one thing that I will say that I never was, is I was never afraid to take that step of, well, this industry's in trouble. Let's talk about the gun industry or whatever. Well, hey, the government's after guns, and that industry may shut down in the next 2 years. Well, I didn't care. I was like, well, I'm gonna go do this, and if I'm gonna find somewhere to land, because the work ethic, I have a work ethic of, you may be smarter than me, you may be better looking than me, but you're never going to outwork me. And if you have that mindset, then you will climb, and you can't be scared, man. You just gotta go after it, even if it's not being an influencer for Sitka or influencer for Kuyu or a glamorous job. Owning a pawn shop was not a glamorous job, Ike. We had a pawn shop for about 6 years. Now I sold a lot of guns and a lot of suppressors and a lot of thermal and a lot of everything, but it was not it was not a glorious job by any means. And that's actually,
you weren't one of the Pawn Stars.
I was not one of the Pawn Stars, especially in this part of the world, but that's how I met Aaron from Swagger and from Big and J. And when he met me, my partner's having a good time talking with everybody at 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and talking about being the boss and being this and being that. And then I'm the guy where they're on the telephone talking to the buyers at the distributor saying, hey man, well, how much is that ammo? I gotta have 5,000 rounds by next Tuesday for this. And so it just, that work ethic is what's made me climb from the bottom to, pretty much maybe not the top of the industry, but the top position I've held.
Yeah. Yeah. And, FoldAR is, in my opinion, at first when Reekers came to me and said, hey, why don't you check this out? I'm not the guy that live and breathes ARs. I'm just not that guy.
Sure.
I shoot them. I think there's a place for them 100%. I'm just not the guy that is going to be tinkering on, building it from the ground up, as Reekers calls them. He is that guy. Reekers calls them adult Legos, where you
correct.
Start,
yeah. Oh yeah.
You just start
snap it
putting
together.
pieces together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, and I don't do it with anything. I don't reload. I don't do that with my bow. I have a setup that works for me, and I try and replicate it on every bow I get. I'm just not that guy. It's not my thing to tinker with that stuff. But FoldAR, when he walked in and he had a backpack, and he goes, hey, have you seen these? I'm like, it's a backpack. Yeah, I've seen them. Everly Stock makes them. He said, no. There's an AR, and he pulls out this AR, and he goes, have you seen this? No, what am I looking at? Did you break that? Reekers, did you break a gun?
Did you break a gun? Yeah.
And honestly, he probably could have, but he starts putting together and starts messing around with them. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've seen in a really, really long time. It's, you fold it out, obviously, and it turns it. And of course, this is the pistol. I don't know do they call this
the brace? It's a pistol brace. Yeah.
It is technically a brace.
Yeah.
We won't get into the politics of that. I've actually talked to lawmakers in Washington, D.C. about
the braces.
Anyway, on my podcast, check it out. Yeah. He explains what the problem is, but I went, I got to have one of those. Those are so freaking cool. You can fold that thing up, throw it in a backpack, throw it in the back of my truck, in the back seat of my truck, and I can be prepared for the next stupid riot that happens that gets out of hand, whatever it is. So let's talk about FoldAR a little bit. We talked about your history. Let's talk about FoldAR's history and where it was spawned and why, and all the facets of that.
Yeah, so the owner, his name's Corby Hall. He has a pretty long background in the firearms industry, going back to 2016, which is where the idea was truly came up with the idea of the one rifle to rule them all. Mm-hmm. And y'all did a couple of really good videos that shows how easy you can change calibers on that weapon. And so that was kind of his thought process is, how can I make the most compact AR on the market, and how can I make it where you can change calibers in 10 seconds? And so that really got him into figuring this and just figuring it out. And there's a lot of people look at it and say, oh, that just folds in half. There's some sauce in there that took somebody way smarter than me to get figured out. And
yeah, I mean, you're talking a pressure gun that where all the pressure happens, there's a break in it. And
correct.
And the engineering on it, at first I was like, I'm good. I don't know if I want to shoot that. I think I broke it. And then you start looking at the design, and you can go into detail a little bit about the design of it, and you go, actually, that's pretty safe. And it's really cool.
Well, and so the best way to imagine it, Ike, is so the AR guys, you said you're not an AR, a dork like the rest of us about ARs, and but they're used to or even you're used to a free floating barrel. Okay,
Yeah.
well, and I know that y'all shot Savage for a long time. I don't know if y'all are still shooting Savage or not, but okay. And so think about their barrel nut on that Savage.
Yeah.
And you can take that barrel nut off with a wrench if you want to.
Yep.
In 15 minutes or so. Yep. with a little bit of oomph. Okay. Yep. Well, there's no real difference, than where my latch is all my latch is doing is acting as a barrel nut or as that barrel nut on that bolt action rifle, or it's just sandwiching your barrel to the action. And we've got videos of the owner and myself. We're shooting full automatic with the thing without even having we're holding the barrel onto the front of that rifle. It's not latched, it's not pinned. We're literally doing a 20 round mag dump with a machine gun, just taking the barrel system and holding it like this, sticking it on there in place, and then firing it, dumping around with a machine gun, and then holding it back like this. So you don't even have to have it latched, even though you should. Everybody should always have it latched. That's the way to shoot it.
Yeah.
But for everybody's understanding, all of the violence is trapped inside that chamber. So
everything that's here is where that's all happening. Down the barrel is just it's not much pressure. So you guys were literally shooting it like this, holding it. Well, so that pin on the side there, Ike, where the hinge is at. Yeah. Pop that pin out real quick. That little black pin right there on the side. Right. You'll see that little black pin right there, close. On the driver's side. Right there. See that little pin? Yep. That's right where the hinge is at. There's a pin that's connecting that hinge. Pop that pin out if you can. I think it's too tough. Okay, it might be tight right now. Okay. Yep. Well. But anyway, we were shooting it without anything locked in. So just not locked in, nothing. Just basically holding the barrel on there, shooting a machine gun, not latched, not locked, proving that it's safe. That it's safe to shoot. We don't recommend it, and it's not recommended, and I don't want to see other people making that video. Right. But if you didn't get it latched, it's not that big of a deal at all. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. So if you were in a hurry and got in an accident or got into an incident, not an accident. Correct. Into a tight spot, it'd be fine. It'd be fine and dandy. And that's I actually did a video that showed that, of pulling it out of the bag, and it was like, I think took me like 21 seconds or whatever, laying on my back to acting like I'd been shot in a firefight, and I got it out with pretty much with one arm, folded it over, charged the weapon, got 10 rounds on target in 21 seconds without it being latched at all. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. So it was, how old is the company? When did 2016. Okay. Yeah. And it's there in East Texas. Yep. And he was trying to obviously change it to where it was a compact and allowed you to change calibers. How much did he have to go through to go, you know what? We can pop this barrel off. So 2016 was the original version where it just folded. And then 2021 would have been where we said, oh, okay, well, we can take the barrel on and off really easy now. And so 2021 would have been when the Mobetta is what it's called, system came out for being able to change the calibers within seconds or whatever. Right. So that's really, really neat. And the thing that I like, and I showed the bag, and that's that's really sweet. And you guys make more than just brace size pistols. Oh yeah. This one's in a blackout, but we also have one of the full ARs, the long guns, and it's, same concept, obviously not as compact because every piece is a little bit bigger. But it comes in with, does it come with the backpack, or is that something
No,
the Reekers added?
No, that's an included bag. And we offer the Everly Stock upgrade. I think y'all have got that.
Yep.
We offer that as an upgrade. We also use Victos, and we also use 511 and Red Rock. Red Rock is our kind of, if a consumer goes onto my website, buys a rifle, that bag comes with it, and it's a Red Rock bag. But you have the option to upgrade to a 511 Victos or Everly stock. And honestly, that Everly stock is the most comfortable bag out of all of them. It really is. And I know y'all been working with them for years, and that's actually what, got me to like say, well, man, I'm going to reach out to those guys, and I'm going to find what bag they've got that works best for this. And that jackknife bag that y'all have got is where it's at. And it's very gray, man. It's very low key. You could wear that around Walmart.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to think, especially where you're at, nobody's going to think much about. They're going to think you're shoplifting before you're carrying an AR.
Well, that back looks the exact same thing as my backpack that I carry on airplanes.
Sure.
Obviously, I do not have an AR in it, but it's just a backpack, and people don't think of it that way, and it's not the scare tactic or the fear. And it, one of the things that I've always been nervous about with concealed carry in Wyoming is we're a non-concealed carry, or we're a open carry. We don't have licenses, and there's a lot of guys walking around with open carry, and I've always worried, walking around with an AR, number one, people start panicking.
They do.
Whatever, like, where's that guy going and what's he doing?
Correct.
Number two, you've also set yourself as a target.
Yeah.
Like, take
instantaneously.
Take that person out. You're rocking around in a backpack. No one's going to know anything.
Well, and that kind of, goes to what our main purpose of business is. And that is, we want to arm the law enforcement guys that are watching schools, so, where luckily where y'all live at, where we live at, there's some other states where we don't really hear about that type of thing very often, but it does happen more often than none. And that's kind of where once we figured out how good the system operated, his first and now our first mission, I guess you would say, our mission now is to make sure that every school resource officer in the U.S. has one that has that backpack on his back, because you said your kids are my kids' age.
Yep. Teenagers,
early teen. They're not really going to think about the cop that's walking around in their school wearing a backpack. They're not going to really put two and two together that's what's in there. Now, you get down to the younger kids, definitely not. Now, high school kids in your part of the world and my part of the world, they're pretty smart. If the officer's walking around with a backpack on, they're going to say, there's probably something in there I don't want to mess with, but
which is okay.
Which is okay, and it keeps people from acting dumb. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of those things, and I didn't mean to just jump right into that, Ike, but so the main difference between that bag that you've got and a regular AR is, let's just say you carried that bag into Walmart with you, that backpack with that AR into Walmart, okay? And something happens, and if you were normally, you would have that rifle in the back seat of your pickup truck, and you would have to run out of Walmart, go and get that. If you could, run to your truck, unlock your truck, get that rifle out of your truck, load it, run back into Walmart, not knowing where whatever the threat was at that you were having to mess with, and then try to engage that target. In a Walmart situation, that'd take you 5 minutes to do.
At the bare minimum, if you're in the
Correct.
back of the store or
Yeah,
park where I always do in the middle of nowhere,
correct.
that's a completely different thing.
It's going to take you 5 minutes, and we don't have to go into detail of what all can happen in 5 minutes in a situation like that.
Right.
Well, you're in Walmart, and that's on your back. The fast people can engage a target in 11 seconds.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
11 seconds. And so let's talk about that in a school situation. Okay. You've been to your kid's school. Something goes down in the cafeteria. That officer has to run from the cafeteria to his vehicle parked outside and then go back into that school. You're talking a minute and a half.
Yeah.
If he's humping it, and I don't know how big y'all's school is, but at my kid's school, it would take him a minute and a half for that to happen. And then they still have to go back in and find where everything's going down at.
Right. They've removed themselves from the intelligence portion.
Correct. And so these guys having that on their back, they can engage that threat instantaneously and have rounds on target in 11 seconds.
Yeah.
Not a minute and a half. The first shot rings out within 11 seconds. That guy can be on target.
Wow.
So that's kind of been Corby's goal. His life dream now is like, I want every school resource. We want everybody to have one because obviously I think it's the greatest thing ever, but my main goal is to get these SROs in there, and one way that we're working on this is, in your part of the world, they probably would say, well, our budgets at school is pretty light right now. And, coming up with, we got 5 officers that take care of our ISD, and that's $15,000 for those guys to get these weapons. And, the way that I've combated that in my part, at my school district was I went to some friends of mine that I know aren't broke. And I said, hey guys, I know you're a doctor. Between y'all 3 and me, we have 9 kids in this school. At one school, we have 9 kids at one school. And you spend $5,000 like nothing every week on coffee or what?
Golf.
I mean, golf, if you won't help me come up with this 15 grand to get these 5 officers, these firearms, then you should, I hate to be shaming people, but you should feel bad about that because we got 9 kids that we got to worry about. We got 1,500 kids in this school district, and so that's how I've started to combat it, and so when people will say, well, we don't really have the money for that. Well, the public should stand up and say, hey, we both can admit that being in the hunting and outdoor industry, ain't nobody rich from that.
No,
right. Like I said, I make a living. Yeah, y'all make a living and have done great for years, but I'm not going to tell you, say, hey, Ike, man, I know you blow $5 grand a week on nothing. I'm not going to try to make you feel bad, but guys that you can say that to,
right.
and everybody out there at all these different schools can say, man, we know about 25 people in this town that can pull together and buy these officers, these firearms, and we don't have to worry about the funding from the states or from this and from that, and then we take over from there with the training and everything else. Go ahead.
Have you guys had just thinking through this? I think about my own situation. I go, what's the red tape like to get that done? This episode is sponsored by FoldAR. Have you ever wanted to carry a little more firepower than just a pistol? In the current trying times, it'd be nice to have an AR that fits in a backpack the size of a briefcase. FoldAR has solved that problem for you. They come in a few different versions: fold and half rifles, fold and thirds, and even an AR pistol. Don't worry about finding the perfect backpack to fit them in. They come in a backpack specifically for them, and they look just like a regular small pack. FoldARs don't just fold up and conceal easily, but they are very safe and will hold their own at the range. FoldAR is the perfect combination of concealment and firepower. This episode is sponsored by Sawyer Products. Sawyer is a cool company that provides not just great products like water filtration systems, first aid kits, insect repellent, and sunscreen. They also are giving clean drinking water to people around the world. Every time you buy a water filter, be it the small one for your water bottle or the one you hook onto a garden hose, you and Sawyer are helping a developing country with good, clean water systems. Their insect repellent is astonishing. They even have some you spray on your clothes or your pets to keep those creepy, nasty crawlies away. Their sunscreen works so well you only have to apply a few times a day versus every 50 minutes with the other guys. It is truly amazing. So go get some Sawyer products that not only work great, but also give back to the communities around the world. Check them out at Sawyer.com and tell them you heard it at Eastmans.
It's because it's the law because it's the police, because it's the cops.
You're donating it to the
You're
city.
donating it to the city department. And so they're not telling you, they're not going out and trying to fundraise for it and asking for the money. It's a concerned parent. It's a concerned grandparent. It's a concerned uncle that's saying, man, I know 5 people we can buy. Now, don't get me wrong. In my part of the world, supplying all the schools in Houston, the 5th biggest city in the U.S. or whatever.
Right.
The 5 guys aren't going to buy Houston PD the weapons that they need, and it's like that in y'all. There's some towns like that in y'all's part of the world and all over the place, but it's the funding isn't there. And what we found out too, Ike, is that I doubt I'm offending anybody listening to this or anybody that really follows y'all, but I like to call them the blue-haired moms. Okay. And you know exactly who I'm talking about when I say the blue-haired moms. My sister is a blue-haired mom. She is she despises that she despises what I do for a living, but she understands that I do take care of my family. The idea of the rifle in the backpack that she doesn't have to see, she's okay with. It doesn't bother her that bad because her baby doesn't have to see that gun, but she appreciates the fact that it's there if it needs to be. And
it's a trained police officer,
correct,
down that.
And so you were kind of talking about, with going back to kind of what you were saying, the not the loopholes, but the snags you might run into. Well, a lot of the times you got parents that want to hamstring the police because of governmental or whatever political beliefs or whatever you want to call it. What we're kind of finding out is that those people are okay with it if they can't see it and it's in that officer's hands.
So have you guys thought about putting together an organization that works with school districts, since you know how to do it, and give the guys like me and my doctor buddies? I don't have any because those guys are way smarter than me, but
of course
those types of guys, the tools that they need to get this done.
We are working on that, and that's actually called my owner has started to call that the Noble Endeavors Mission. And so you will see that starting to be able to where if people want to go on when they come to our website to look at it, there'll be places to donate to that, or to say, hey, is there a school in my area that's needing this, and I want to, hey, I'll buy them 2 weapons, or hey, let me know what I can do. And and we did a post the other day on Instagram and posted about, obviously, there was a school shooting the other day in Georgia, and we kind of did a post about it, and we're just like, hey, there's a solution for this, guys. Like we offer a solution for not the people's mindset, but to defend those kids against evil, like the worst kind of evil. Hey, we have the fastest solution for that. We just need y'all's help in getting it to where it needs to be. And we had people from Michigan and people from Maryland and Texas and everywhere kind of start emailing us saying, hey, what can I do? You know, I can't buy a whole school district rifles, but what can I do to help? And so we basically have taken these people's names down, like, hey, as soon as this Noble Endeavors thing is going, we'll reach out to you and you can help us however. And so I would say that Noble Endeavors thing is, well, before the end of the year, it will be out. And so
make sure you get my name on that list.
Sure, for sure.
I'm gonna, because we live in a small town, right?
Correct.
So I want my name on that list. We live in a small town, so I know the chief of police and I know the school officers. Go to church with them.
Yep.
Great guys. And I'm going to bring this up the next time I have the opportunity to talk to them about it. But the thing that scares me, I live in a small community in Wyoming. These things don't happen here often, but they do happen. And it's a mental problem, right?
Oh yeah.
Mental problem 100%. In this country. And Wyoming is not, because of where we live and stuff, we are not immune to that mental problem.
Nope.
That mental problem still exists in our kids here in Wyoming. It doesn't happen as often. It's just economics of scale. There's only 450,000 people live in the whole state. So
correct.
It's not as prevalent as a percentage. And so, but it can still happen. And I'm going to talk to those guys about this and just say, hey, what can we do? I know some guys that have cut through the red tape in other states and got this done. Would you be interested in it? And would you be, interested in walking around with this? And I guarantee you, they'll be like, you would do that? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Me and my 5 non-doctor friends will do this.
And you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like not everybody's a doctor, and like, I don't have doctor money, but I'm coming up with some cash because I do have 2 kids in that school district, and I just happen to be the one that knows how to sell it to the PD, and the PDs are getting on board every day. We're adding probably, 3, like when I say we're quoting 15 or 20 PDs a month, and I'm adding 6 to 8 of those, like putting it into effect probably a month right now. So wow. it's starting to catch on, starting to people are starting to really see the writing on the wall. The other side of the LE market that we hit is motorcycle cops. So that weapon that you have right there on your desk, that fits in the radio box of a BMW motorcycle.
Really?
And so the motorcycle guys riding around, that's in that radio box.
That's actually really interesting, because I always wondered, you see a cop car and there's the shotgun or the
Correct.
AR sitting, vertical in the front seat. I always wondered what those bike cops just have pistols, or
that's what that's a lot of the time. But so now with that one you have in your hand, that style that fits right behind them on the radio box on the BMW, goes into the and even not just for the LE guys, but to any of the adventure riders or the motorcycle riders out there too. That goes in the saddlebag of a Harley, a Honda, an Indian, Triumph, whatever you want to call it. That goes in the saddlebag on the side of your bike. Those guys travel. Those guys ride all over the place. Yeah. How many people ride through your state on a motorcycle every year?
In August, right before Sturgis, a lot.
All of them do.
Right through our neighborhood, because we live close to Yellowstone, and everybody wants to ride in a motorcycle in Yellowstone. The crazy bastards. Yeah,
there's a movie, a TV show that showed that too.
Yes,
I think that's where that came from. But they don't have to. They can roll with an AR and not ever be outgunned for whatever they're running into. I'm not probably ever going to mess with a guy on a motorcycle anyway, but somebody's probably mentally unstable enough to do it. And why would they need to be outgunned, and just because of what they're riding instead of driving?
Yeah.
So
what is, I heard this just the other day. And there was a debate in my office about it, and we Googled it, and you get 3 different answers. Do you know what AR actually stood for? Do you remember?
It's Armalite rifle.
Okay, so that's what I always thought.
Yep.
I always believed it was a company, right?
Yep. Yeah, Armalite was, and now it's owned by nobody that ever invented it now, but it still is in existence, and it's Armalite rifle.
Because there was people like, oh no, it's assault rifle. No, it's not.
No,
that is not what it means.
That's a media term there. I mean, that term does exist and exists before the media started using it, but that assault rifle is a term that the media has used.
Yeah, and the assault rifle is a military thing. It has nothing to do with an AR.
Correct. No,
Armalite
nothing. Yeah, Armalite rifle.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So, noble endeavor. I can't wait till that comes out.
Sure.
What's some of the new things you guys are coming out with? Well, actually, you talked about the calibers. I'm just reading through my little chicken scratch here. You guys talked about the calibers. How many calibers? So like this pistol. How many calibers?
That's a 300 blackout. I do 223 wild, and then I also do 6.5 Grendel. And before the end of this year, you will see 350 Legend, 7.62 by 39, and 6 arc.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the pistol.
Well, you can. They'll all fit on that.
Wow.
So I mean, it's you really have to see some of the videos, because I know that you've got that one and the long one, but you're not switching the barrels around all the time to see how much it is. Y'all are folding them up and carrying them around and doing whatever with them. So the barrel changing is one of the hardest things for people to wrap their mind around, is how you can change calibers so fast. And there's some good videos on the internet about caliber swaps for us, but we do have, like I said, those there'll be those 6 calibers available by the end of the year.
So right now you can buy, let's just say this gun roughly, I don't know, the retail is like $3,000, right?
That one will run you about 25 with the bag. Yeah. Now, if you do the upgraded bags and stuff like that, it starts climbing, because you know how much an Everly stock bag can be, And so by the time it's all said and done, you can get to $3,000 real quick.
So if I took this and said, okay, $3,000, what would it be to get, because this is a blackout, if I wanted to go the SICK arc, what components would I need, and how much would it be?
It cost you get an $800 barrel system. So the part that folds where the barrel is at, Ike.
Yeah.
So I sell just a barrel system.
Okay.
And so that comes with the barrel, the handguard, the gas tube, the gas block, muzzle, everything you need. So I sell just that barrel system, so you can swap it in and out that fast. So a barrel system will cost you $800. So
I can pop that pin, pop the other barrel on it,
and
throw the clip in and roll.
Correct, and do work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool, because you'd have one AR with different calibers,
and that's why that when I said at the beginning that the one rifle to rule them all, that's where that came from. And so it runs the gambit from one side to the other.
That's really cool, because then I don't have to worry about, well, what if what ammo do I stockpile the most of? I can just swap it out.
Yeah, and if it goes Mad Max on us, we can just be picking whatever up off the ground. I mean, that's kind of the whole thought process behind it. But like one thing too, and I had a gentleman email asking a question, headed up to your part of the world to go do some camping, and he was like, hey, I want this for my backpack for a bear gun. And obviously he's not bear hunting, obviously, but his thought process was, I don't want to poke him with my finger. What's going to be my best bet? And we can talk ballistics and all this, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to have all the ballistic weenies come out of the woodworks on this to me. But that 300 blackout is about the equivalent of a 30-30 rifle as far as ballistically goes. What me and you have been told, and you may have not killed a bunch of stuff with a 30-30 rifle, But in our part of the world, there's probably been more everything killed with a 30-30 than anything else.
Well, it's a 30 caliber bullet, and it's still traveling.
20,
I think out of that AR, it's traveling 1,500, isn't it?
Oh no, it's traveling 20, probably 2,100.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's more than you'll need for a grizzly bear.
Yeah, I mean, you can shoot. I mean, I'm just saying, shooting a grizzly in the face, that's skull crushing power. You know. Now, is it what I want to carry when no, that's probably, if I know that I'm going to be bear hunting, it's not what I'm carrying. Yeah. But I would much rather have that than a stick to poke them in the eyeball with.
Right.
You know. And so I recommended that that exact weapon that you have in your hand for him to put in his backpack. Now, is that fast to get out? It's not fast to get out, but you know that if you see some scat or some tracks or something around that indicates to you that there's some bears here, then it don't take long at all to deploy that and have it easily, you know, accessible.
The other thing I like about it, I'm not quite into rifle elk hunting yet, but I'm doing a couple rifle elk hunts on horseback, and this will be perfect. I usually carry a scatter gun. I carry a shotgun. Yep. But this will be nice to be able to put in camp at night, you know, locked and loaded, set next to me. My 14-year-old daughter drew an elk tag. She'll be with me on one of these hunts. And I just want that ability that I don't have to worry about.
Nope.
Where's the pistol?
Where's the pistol? Where's my 10 millimeter? Where
exactly? Or here's my here's my 300 Win Mag, but it's got a scope on it. And it's at night. Well, this isn't going to work.
This isn't good. Yeah. So I need something that's good from me to the door. You know, the tent or what, you know, because y'all are, I'm sure where y'all are probably going to have to do a little spike camping if you're. If I had to, and so, you know, I've never had to deal with grizzly bears, you know, so I don't have that luxury.
I wouldn't call it a luxury.
But you know, I have been in black bear country quite a bit, you know, and, you know, it's not that intimidating, but, you know, they're still around. And if you walked up on one, it would still suck, you know, so.
Yep. So I was reading through some of your stuff, you know, in preparation for this, and you made a comment about being addicted to mule deer hunting since '97, and I thought, well, that's an interesting year. Did you get my dad's High Country Mule Deer book and get addicted to it?
I did. So I went to work at a fish farm, you know, like as a kind of like for fun, you know, not while I was working, but the gentleman that owned that was a mule deer hunter. Yeah, he was traveling already because at that time I was 17 years old, and I didn't have no money, you know, in '97. But this guy was an established businessman. He was traveling to Saskatchewan and hunting whitetails and drawing tags to hunt mule deer and all that. And so I'm seeing these, you know, I'm in this fish farm barn seeing these mule deer, and I'm like, damn, that's what I'm talking about, you know. And so then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna learn about mule deer. Well, that's when I pick up your dad's book, you know, and that's when I started learning about trash bag. I've been talking mad noise to people for years in Texas about that deer's got pretty weak backs, you know. You know, it's
good fronts make for bad backs.
They're like, yeah, but look at that. I was like, well, you know, I mean, that mass is only about 20% of the, you know. I mean, so I had your dad's, like, you know, his whole thing like down pat, you know, and so but really and truly, you know, like seeing, I guess, was that Popeye that was in that book a lot?
Yeah.
Was that deer like on the cover? Yeah. And so, like, I just remember, you know, seeing all those big toed, you know, velveted out muleys and be like, I'm going to do that. And so, dude, I hunted a lot with a bow and went a lot of places and saw a lot of ugly mule deer, paid a lot of outfitters a lot of money and would not shoot one. I was like, man, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to use Idaho in about 2012. Okay. I mean, I'm in Idaho, and I mean, I finally got a little bit of money in my pocket, and I'm on this outfitted hunt, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna shoot that mule deer, dude. And I was like, that's a giant 3x3, but I'm not paying you $6,500 to shoot that 140-inch 3x3,
Yep.
And so I passed on a bunch of good mule deer, throughout the years, just waiting for a big one. And I think 20 something years later, I finally ended up killing my first one in Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
West Texas?
Yep. Well, in the Panhandle.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was I actually not ashamed to say it, but I was with a friend of mine and another guy, and I cried when I shot that deer because I've spent my life trying to kill one.
Yeah, you got 20 some years of turning down deer and dreaming about it.
And I turned down a lot of deer. I mean, in Utah, Colorado, Oregon, Idaho. I mean, I hunted a lot of different places, trying to Kansas,
So
Yeah.
tell me about the Panhandle buck.
Well, so Kinzer, Josh
Yep.
Kinzer.
I just had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but and you heard about the onions. I won't go there. But and so Kinzer he set up a deal with some of his buddies from all his veteran stuff, because he's like, dude, you've been trying to hunt mule deer for how long? I was like, 20 years, brother. 20 years I've been hunting these things, trying to kill one. And so he put me up with some
trying
guys
to kill a respectable one.
Like,
you could have killed one.
I could have killed one, but I wanted to kill I was like, man, I don't care about, not that I had nothing wrong with shooting whatever.
Right.
I just, my deal was like, I've been hunting about 6 hunts in and I hadn't killed one. It's like, well, I'm holding out now. I ain't killing one until it's worth it. So Kinzer put me in touch with some guys and went to the Panhandle, about 15 miles from the Oklahoma border in the Texas Panhandle. And they put me on, we scouted the day before, and we're hunting, crop fields is what you're hunting there. You're not hunting the mountains. We're not, I guess you could say it's mule deer hunting.
It's low country. That's okay.
It's low country. Sure. That's what
I do that every year.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you admitting that it was a real mule deer hunt.
It is.
So we
I don't care where mule deer live. They're still hard.
Dude,
I don't care.
It was not that easy. But we found this deer in a big pivot field the night before. I was like, man, I hope that deer's there, and the day before, when I scored him, because I've gotten, with all the whitetails and all that, I'm pretty good at scoring deer now. I mean, I can tell you, I can look at your whitetail in a picture and say that deer, you're gonna say that deer's 180. I'm gonna say that deer's about 154. He's not 180. And so I had this mule deer pegged at 160, and I was like, I will shoot that deer in Texas. 160-inch mule deer in Texas. I was shooting, and the next morning we got on him, but he had busted off 3 times.
Oh, so this is during the rut.
During the rut, he'd busted off 3 times that night, I guess.
Jeez.
Fighting or doing whatever. I didn't care. I saw him. He was in that pivot field, and we got to about 347 yards on him. And by that time, it was all mowed, and I couldn't get any further, and so I had to shoot him at about 350.
Nice.
Off a swagger, by the way.
Yeah.
And knocked him down, man, and cried like a baby on camera. Well, my buddy was recording me, but I cried like a baby for about 2 minutes while after I shot him, and it was the best thing ever. But that same year, my son, we have some draw hunts in Texas, and I've been trying to draw a mule deer tag in Texas for 14 years.
Oh, geez.
And still haven't. And my son drew it on his first year. And so he was 9 at the time, and getting a 9-year-old on a mule deer is tough. And we went and we did it. We tried. I couldn't get him on these mule deer, but we ended up shooting a really, really, really nice whitetail while we were there.
That's
but cool. He got the whole experience, and it was West Texas, so we were hunting some, it was mountainous, and so he got the full experience of what I was doing in Utah which was the hardest mule deer hunt I've ever been on, was in Utah. So
yeah, that country is hard. Steep.
And for a Texas boy, that it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot.
So what's FoldAR's, what's coming up new? What can we look for coming down the pipe? We talked about the Noble, but what else you guys got coming up innovatively?
You're gonna see one thing that everybody asked for is they want it in an AR-10 platform.
Okay.
For 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, all of that. So, just so everybody knows, that's in the works.
That's good.
It will be a little bit before that. Will not be this year. You won't see it this year. But and funny enough, that was the original, our original weapon. The original design was off of a 308.
Oh,
and
really?
So there are some, I think my owner built 20 of them. And so there's about 15 people in the US that actually have one of one of 20 that exist. But so that will be, you will see that. We started working with proof research too. And so there'll be some proof research barrels available.
Oh, that'll be cool.
To kind of lighten it up, and for stellar accuracy, really and truly.
Yeah.
And let's see.
How much do you think will it be significant weight loss?
It'll be a pound.
Oh,
yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. The 16-inch, right? The 16-inch barrel, it's a pound lighter. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a pound lighter. And, but as we both know, there's a price tag attached to a carbon fiber barrel, but it's worth it, man. It's money. It's awesome. It's awesome.
You start talking to these backpacking guys, like the crew that I have, and a pound off their back is worth an ounce worth of gold at least.
Oh man, I can't even. I only because I've done it do I understand it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
From being able to perform and not.
Yep.
Which is usually, are you going to be able to be successful or not? So,
Correct.
That's very cool. Well, so one of the things that I appreciate about you guys, not only are you building cool products, but you're trying to help our kids stay safe so that they're in a safe space. When I drop them off, I pick them up. They've learned, which is key. I'm not sending them there to be a babysitter. I want them to be learning. Correct. And not distracted, and obviously be safe. And you guys are taking those steps, and I commend and applaud you guys for that. That's huge. So anything we can do on our end that would that can help that get the word out. And once Noble is launched, we can push that.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Because obviously, law enforcement is a huge portion of our audience. A lot of those guys are hunters.
They're hardcore hunters at that, man. They spend that vacation time.
That's right. That's right. I think we've had more law enforcement officers on covers of magazines than any other profession. That's not a surprising
statistic at all. Really. Yeah. I mean, those guys hunt, man. They do down here too. Yeah, they're hardcore down here. It's just the same.
That's right. So anything else going on with you guys coming up? I know. Will you guys be doing SHOT Show this year?
We will be at SHOT Show this year. We hang out in the law enforcement area.
Okay.
That's where we kind of, just because, again, that's our focus.
Yep.
But we'll be at SHOT, and then, myself, I try to go to everything if I can. So I'll be at SHOT a day or so, and then also probably at ATA a day or so, just to kind of hang out and see everybody or whatever. But that's about all. We make it to where it's, consumer type, trade shows.
You're not doing Hunt Expo in Salt Lake.
No, sir.
So you mentioned this early on in the conversation. You talked about ordering online. you can order one of these online, and how does that work?
So you would go online, you would use your Eastman 15 for a 15% discount there.
There you go. We're very well. Eastman.
Yes.
Actually, one of my friends he was the AC guy. I don't know if you knew this, but we just moved into a new building here in Powell, and I completely remodeled it.
I heard about it.
Yeah, I was the general contractor.
Yes, I heard.
Oh my gosh. But I told you I don't have any friends that are doctors, because all my friends are in the trades. And one of my really good friends is the heating and air conditioning guy, and he was in my office after he got moved in here. He's in my office, and I had this gun sitting on my desk, and it was all folded up. And he did the same thing. He goes, "Dude, did you break that?" And anyway, I was pitching him on it, and that's when I told Rickers, I go, "Do we have a discount code for them? Because I'm pretty sure I can get Richard to buy one of these like right now." And he did. He's like, "I can't wait to show up." Oh yeah. Yeah. So I probably shouldn't have told you that the one code. No. Well,
but we do have that code for y'all. I threw that out there for you.
Yep. Eastman's 15. If you guys use Eastman's 15, you get credit. You get 15% off.
15% is that off. That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot.
It is a lot. I mean, you think 15% off of $2,000 is pretty good lick, man.
Yeah. And almost $400.
Correct. And so there's that financial background I heard about. Just that fast.
I do math.
Yeah. But you would go online, you would order that, and then we ship that to your FFL to do your paperwork at. And I have a pretty decent now in the West. I'm pretty weak on dealers. They're climbing. I'm getting them there. But like in the East and in the South, I got a pretty good dealer network. If somebody wants to go into a store and put their hand on one, but in the West, I'm a little weak. I'm growing it. My rep guys are out selling it, trying to do their thing. But you go online, order what you want, and then it's going to say, please provide your FFL information. You just say, well, this is going to whatever gun shop. And here's their phone number, and then we call them, say, hey, I need a copy of your FFL. I ship it to them. You go there, do paperwork, pick it up, and just that easy.
That is awesome.
Now, uppers, like if you're already an AR owner and just want a complete upper, well, then you would just order a complete upper, and I ship that directly to your home.
So let's talk about that. Yeah. For the neophytes like myself, what is an upper?
So when you're holding that weapon in your hand, Ike, there are two parts to that. There's the part with the trigger, and then there's the part at the top.
Yeah, this part.
So what they called it. From that charging handle, the back, from the charging handle in the back, from there forward all the way to the muzzle brake, that's going to be your complete upper.
Okay.
So you can buy that complete upper Cerakoted or in any caliber I sell, and it's not serialized. And so since you already have an existing AR or whatever, then I can ship just that to your home.
Yeah, so the serial number on this rifle, on this gun, is actually right here. So it's
correct.
The lower
it's
that
just,
has
the
trigger is.
Yeah. So all I got to do is send you the top, and there's no, I don't have to send. I don't have to send that to a dealer. I can send that directly to your home.
That's pretty neat. So you could have somebody else, if you already had an AR and wanted to build a folding AR, you could ship it right to your house.
Correct. Yeah. Everything but the lower. Yep.
That is really cool.
Yep. And you can use that same discount applies to an upper as it does to a full rifle. So, that complete upper costs $1,500. So you get 15% off $1,500 using y'all's discount code there. So
that is way awesome.
Yeah.
Way awesome. Save you $250 or $225.
Correct.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time coming on, talking FoldAR, really talking mule deer. And I know you're busy, and you're probably on East Coast time, not far east, aren't you?
No, I'm central.
You're still central.
Yep, still central.
And I know it's getting close to beer 30 there, but
Dr. Pepper 15.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your time, Dustin, and looking forward to working with you guys closer. Looking forward to actually I might buy another barrel for this when that 6 ARC comes out, because I may have a stockpile of that.
Yeah, well, you do also know an ammunition manufacturer that happens to make a lot of that, you know.
That's right. Hornady does make that, and they ship it out in pallets, come to find out.
Yes, they do. And it also does come in the ELDX projectile, which is, what me and you both know, is a freaking hammer, you know.
It is.
So that's what smoked my mule deer, by the way, is the 200 grain 300 Win Mag. So
that's what I'm elk hunting with next week. That's what I'm hunting with. ELDS.
Yes, sir.
I've killed a lot of animals. In fact, I just did yesterday. It's Hornady's. I don't want this to be a shameless plug for Hornady, but it's their 75th anniversary now, and they're in the sales meeting, and I just did a big plug for them. Rah plug for the sales guys. So we've killed a lot of stuff with the LDX in the last 5 years.
It's all I use. So I'm just saying, it's the only thing I'm shooting. So yes, sir. Well, cool. Ike, I sure do appreciate it, man. And like I said, I look forward to helping you out any way I can. And any of your folks or whatever, if they got more questions, they can call my facility and talk directly to me. I mean, I'm not above answering the telephone. Now, it may take a minute for me to get on the phone, but somebody can get me on the phone if anybody listening has more questions about anything.
Well, I hope they do, and I hope that, you know, if you're in the marketplace for an AR. In fact, I'm going to get my dad one. He was in here. I was in Africa when it happened, but he came in here asking around how we can get AR. He wants an AR. He's like, I've never owned one, but I want one. And of course, he looked at that one. Holy cow, that's innovative! So I'm gonna get him on there and get the Eastman 15 discount, and we'll get him something that he can shoot. Which I got to go look and see what he's been stockpiling besides 6.5 Creedmoor.
Well. It makes me happy to know that gentleman would touch one of my rifles.
Oh yeah, he was messing around with them and asking all kinds of questions. So
yes, sir.
Pretty cool. Well, thanks again, Dustin, and you have a good rest of your day.
You too, brother.
Thank you. Well, folks, that was an awesome conversation with Dustin. It's always good to talk to somebody that is like-minded, loves mule deer as much as I do, as well as a guy in a company that is helping keep your kids safe at school so that they can do what they do, and that's learn and not be a threat, not be a problem, and learn. So I appreciate you sticking with us. If you like this conversation, I encourage you to check out a couple others. He mentioned Josh Kinzer, who you worked with him at Swagger. I had a 3-hour conversation with Josh. He's a super interesting guy. All the way, he was in the military. He was in the Army. He has some funny monkey stories that he had to bail off a roof with a baby and monkeys were chasing him. So check that episode out, as well as I have some other cool episodes with people like Willie Robertson, where we talk about being a man and being a Christian man and what that is. Check that out as well. So I hope you enjoy those episodes. And thanks again for spending an hour plus with me having genuine conversations.